The living room of the Williams mansion looked like a royal hall. White roses stood in tall glass vases. In the center, a silver casket rested on a black catafalque. Inside it lay Amanda Williams, billionaire CEO, only child of Williams Emeka, dressed in a rich white lace with a matching head tie. Cotton wool sat in her nose and ears. Her face looked calm, like someone who had finally stopped fighting. Juliet and Olivia, her closest friends, stood by the casket in black dresses. Tears slipped down their cheeks. George, Jonathan's best friend, and a quiet pastor, stood a few steps away with red eyes. The house staff filled the back of the hall, heads bowed. The doors opened. Jonathan Uche walked in, wearing a black kaftan. His steps were slow. He held his chest with one hand and rubbed his eyes with the other. He looked at Amanda for a long time. He shook his head and started to cry. George moved forward and held him. "It's okay," George whispered. "God will comfort you." Jonathan nodded, swallowed hard, and lifted his phone. He turned his back a little, put the phone to his ear, and covered his mouth with his left hand. He spoke in a low voice, but the room was quiet. Everyone could hear. "Hello, my love," he said. "She's finally gone." The words fell like a heavy iron door. Juliet froze. Olivia's hand flew to her mouth. George's eyebrows jumped. Even the housemaids stopped breathing. "You know what this means," Jonathan went on, still whispering. "By tomorrow, I make myself head of the company. We'll change the name. Then we fly to Maldives for our wedding. Congratulations to us." He ended the call and slipped the phone into his pocket. The silence broke. "Jonathan!" Olivia snapped, stepping forward. "How wicked can you be? Your wife's body is still here." George's voice was tight with pain. "If someone told me this, I would not believe it." "Jonathan, what happened to you?" Juliet wiped her tears and faced him. "If your mission is to take her father's legacy, we will fight you with everything we have." Jonathan looked shocked for a moment, then his face hardened. He opened his mouth to speak. But let's go back to where the fire started. 10 years earlier, Jonathan and Amanda were the perfect picture. He was a smart bank manager. She was already a billionaire CEO at 25, the only child of Williams Emeka. She had inherited her father's company and his calm strength. They married in a simple church in Ikoyi, with white flowers and bright music. People whispered, "What a blessed couple." Then came Nadia. Their baby girl laughed like bells and clapped for everything. The blender, the TV remote, even the dog. But life can be hard even for people with money. One evening, a fever rose fast. A hospital light blinked. Hands moved quickly. Prayers filled the air. And then, silence. Nadia was gone. The house turned heavy. Amanda worked more. Jonathan smiled less. They tried hospital after hospital, test after test. They waited for a new baby that never came. The years felt like a tight knot that hands could not untie. Amanda did not hold back her love. She gave Jonathan a special credit card with no limit. "Buy what you like," she said. "Travel where you want." She gave him 3 SUVs for a small convoy because he said it made him feel safe. She paid for their vacations every year. She trusted him the way a child trusts light. Jonathan said the bank was stressful. He resigned. Amanda made him account officer for Williams Group. It looked like a sweet gift, but it was a doorway. Now he saw the inflows. He studied the streams of money the way a fisherman studies a river. And something dark started in his heart. One night, he sat up in bed. "Amanda," he said, voice soft. "What is mine is yours. What is yours should be mine. Let's change the company's name to Williams and Jonathan Group. Let's add my name to the ownership." Amanda sat up too. She cleaned her face with her palm and stared at him. "Are you joking?" He smiled. "Maybe. I can't do that," she said, voice firm. "I love you, but I will not change my father's legacy. If all I have given you is not enough, we can end the marriage peacefully." He laughed then, lifting both hands. "Ah, I was just playing. See your face." He wasn't playing. Soon, Jonathan got a mistress, Sandra. He bought her a mansion on Banana Island, in her name. He said it was an investment. He started sleeping out. Sometimes he vanished for 2 days. He returned with small stories, traffic, meetings, sudden trips. Amanda's heart knew something was wrong. She hired a top private investigator. Quiet, careful, invisible. The man tracked bank trails and car trackers. He watched door cameras and followed signatures. He brought photographs and papers. He brought dates, times, and amounts. It was the investigator who first told Amanda about the Banana Island mansion in Sandra's name. He showed how $5 million disappeared from the company's foundation account. He showed record of cars sold off in secret. He showed patterns that looked like steps toward a throne. Betrayal is like cold water poured down the back. Amanda saved every file, every receipt, every chat. She said little, she watched, she prayed. And then, one ugly whisper reached her ears. Jonathan was planning to take her life after he contacted assassins. Jonathan had set a plan for the day. Her day. Amanda called Dr. Nelson, the family doctor. She trusted him. She gave him everything. The names, the dates, the fear. They formed a plan that sounded crazy but safe. On the morning the hit was meant to happen, Amanda would be declared dead. They would watch who clapped and who cried. They would see Jonathan's true face. On that morning, Amanda bathed and dressed like a queen. White lace, matching head tie, gold jewelry, perfume like soft rain. She lay on the big bed and called Nelson. He rushed in, checked her pulse, and shouted for the maid. "Cynthia, did Madam call you at night?" Cynthia shook her head, already crying. "No, doctor." Nelson bowed his head and sighed. "She's gone." The cry that rose from the staff shook the house. Cynthia rolled on the marble floor. The cook held the wall and sobbed. The gardener fell to his knees. Nelson made his calls. He called Jonathan too. "Sir," Nelson said, voice broken, "Amanda is gone. She called me early, but by the time I got here, on the other end of the city, in Sandra's bright kitchen, Jonathan made a loud wail. He ended the call, wiped his eyes, and told Sandra, 'Let me first go and see. She may be doing this to get my attention.' He returned to the mansion in the afternoon. By then, Amanda's body was in the silver casket, cotton wool in place, friends by her side. George had prayed for peace over her. The room was heavy with grief. And then came the call at the coffin. Back in the present, after Jonathan's whispered, "Congratulations to us," Olivia stepped in front of him. "You will not touch that company," she said, voice shaking. "Not after what you've done." George's jaw clenched. "Repent, Jonathan. This is a dark path." Jonathan's eyes flashed. "All of you should leave my house. From tomorrow." He stopped, frowning. Something had changed. Juliet's eyes were on the casket. Her face went pale. Olivia's finger trembled as she pointed. George took one slow step forward, lips parted. From inside the silver casket, beneath the soft light of the chandeliers, Amanda's fingers twitched. Then very gently her eyes opened. The room burst into screams. The housemaids scattered, chairs scraped. Someone shouted, "God!" George stumbled forward, hands raised. Jonathan staggered back, his spine pressing into the cold marble pillar, the phone slipping from his sweaty palm. Amanda's gaze locked on her husband, and the soft, careful calm on her face was gone. The scream that tore through the hall rattled the chandeliers. Amanda's eyes were wide open now, staring straight at Jonathan. Her chest rose and fell slowly. The cotton wool slid from her nostrils. She pushed herself up from the silver casket, her white lace gown catching the light like fire. Juliet stumbled backward and almost tripped over a chair. Olivia pressed her back against the marble wall, her hands shaking. George froze, his Bible clutched tightly in his hand. Jonathan's lips parted, but no sound came. His phone slipped from his hand and hit the floor with a sharp crack. He staggered back, one hand on the pillar, the other clutching at the air. "Impossible," he whispered. "No, this is impossible." Amanda swung her legs over the edge of the coffin and stood. Her heels tapped against the marble as she walked toward him. Her head held high. Her face was no longer soft. It was thunder. Jonathan's knees wobbled. He pointed at her with a trembling finger. You were dead." Nelson said, "You were gone." Dr. Nelson rose quietly from his chair at the corner of the room. His eyes glistened as he spoke. "Amanda was never dead. We only staged it. To see the truth." The staff gasped. Cynthia, the maid, dropped her scarf and covered her face with both hands. Juliet and Olivia looked from Amanda to Jonathan, their shock turning into rage. Amanda stopped in front of Jonathan. The space between them shrank to nothing, then smack. Her palm landed on his cheek with a sharp crack that echoed in the hall. The slap was hard. Jonathan stumbled sideways, gripping his face. "That," Amanda said, through clenched teeth, "is for betraying me after everything I gave you." Her voice rose now, strong and sharp, cutting through the silence. "I gave you access to my life, my company, my wealth. I trusted you with my father's legacy. And what did you do? You hired assassins to end me. You wanted my name erased so you could crown yourself king." Jonathan's face twisted. He tried to speak, but Amanda lifted a hand to silence him. "No, Jonathan, don't speak. Everyone here has heard you already. Everyone here has seen your true heart. Even in front of my coffin, you called your mistress to celebrate. You thought my death was your doorway." Her eyes burned with tears, but her voice stayed firm. "You wanted to destroy me, but God has exposed you." Jonathan's mask cracked, his face darkened. You set me up," he hissed. "You tricked me, Amanda. But you can't win. You think this humiliation will stop me. You don't know me." George stepped forward, voice low but heavy. "Enough, Jonathan. You brought this on yourself." But Jonathan's anger only grew. He pointed a shaking finger at Amanda. "You may think you've won today, but mark my words, I will come back for you. This isn't over." The staff gasped again. Juliet raised her chin. "Do you hear yourself? You're threatening her in front of witnesses." Olivia crossed her arms. "Jonathan, you disgust me. We will not let you destroy Amanda's legacy." Amanda turned and raised her voice. "Cynthia, call the police." Cynthia didn't hesitate. Within minutes, sirens wailed outside the mansion. 2 black police vans pulled up, and armed officers stormed the house. The lead officer, Inspector Ade, stepped into the hall. "Mrs. Williams?" Amanda pointed at Jonathan. "That's the man. He planned my death. He stole from my company. He betrayed me and my father's name. Take him away." Jonathan laughed bitterly. "You think the police scare me? I'll walk out of this tomorrow. I am Jonathan Uche. The officers didn't wait for him to finish. They grabbed his arms and pulled him toward the door. He struggled, shouting, "Amanda, you will regret this. Sandra will stand by me. You can't take my life away." As the doors slammed shut behind them, the house grew quiet again. Amanda's shoulders sagged. She pressed her hand against her chest and breathed deeply. Juliet ran to her and hugged her tight. "You are the strongest woman I know," she whispered. "We thought we lost you." Olivia took Amanda's hand. "Thank God you are alive." Jonathan showed his true self. George, his voice still thick with grief, shook his head. "I cannot believe it. My friend, my brother, reduced to this level of greed. Amanda, I pray for your strength. This battle is not over yet." Amanda looked at all of them, her face a mixture of sadness and steel. "It's not just about me anymore. This is about my father's legacy. Jonathan wanted to erase Williams's name from history. I will never let that happen." Dr. Nelson stepped closer. "Amanda, you must prepare. He will fight. Men like him don't give up easily." Amanda nodded slowly. "Then let him fight. I am ready. But this time, he won't be fighting me alone. He will be fighting the truth." Outside, the sound of the police van faded into the distance, but inside Amanda's chest, a storm still raged, because she knew one thing. Jonathan was dangerous, and even behind prison walls, his shadow could still reach her. She turned to George, Juliet, Olivia, and Nelson. "This is only the beginning." Her words hung heavy in the air, and at that very moment, miles away, in the back of a speeding police van, Jonathan sat with his hands cuffed, his eyes burning like fire. He leaned forward and whispered, "This is not the end. Amanda, you will see me again." The metal doors of the Ikoyi prison slammed shut behind Jonathan Uche with a thunder that seemed to echo deep inside his chest. His hands were cuffed, his face swollen from Amanda's slap, and his once carefully ironed kaftan now looked like a rag. The corridors smelled of sweat, rust, and damp concrete. 2 warders dragged him past rows of barred cells. Inside, hardened men leaned against iron railings, their eyes following him with a mix of curiosity and menace. Some hissed, others whistled mockingly. "So this is the famous Jonathan Uche," one prisoner jeered. "The banker who turned thief." Another laughed. "See as he dayform billionaire for outside, now he go chop beans with us." Jonathan's lips tightened. Rage boiled inside him, but he kept silent. He told himself, "This is temporary. Amanda thinks she has won. She doesn't know who I am. I will walk free, And when I do, I'll make her pay. The warders shoved him into a dimly lit cell with 6 other inmates. A thin mattress lay on the floor, stained and torn. Rats scurried in the corner. The stench was unbearable. The cell leader, a burly man with tribal marks, stood up and smirked. "New fish. Welcome. My name is Bullet. Here, nothing is free. If you want peace, you pay. If not," he cracked his knuckles. Jonathan straightened his back. "Do you know who I am?" Bullet laughed so hard the others joined in. "Everybody here be somebody outside. In here, you are nothing." He pushed Jonathan onto the mattress. "Respect yourself, banker." It stood not the tum. That night, Jonathan lay awake, his mind racing. He thought of Amanda's eyes, burning with fury as she exposed him. He thought of the police van, the handcuffs biting his wrists, and the jeers of the staff who once bowed before him. But above all, he thought of Sandra, his mistress, his secret partner in greed. She had promised to stand by him. She had whispered to him, "Don't worry, Jonathan. If anything happens, I'll fight for you." A bitter smile spread across his face. "Sandra will save me. Amanda doesn't know the war she started." Meanwhile, Amanda sat in her office at Williams Group headquarters, her father's portrait staring down at her from the wall. The events of the funeral replayed in her head like a storm. She still felt the tremor in her hands, the weight of betrayal cutting through her chest. Juliet entered quietly, carrying files. "Madam, these are the financial reports from the past 3 years. We found dozens of unauthorized withdrawals." Jonathan moved billions into accounts linked to shell companies. Amanda closed her eyes briefly. "How could I have been so blind?" Olivia placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. "Don't blame yourself. Jonathan is a master of deception. He used love as a mask." Amanda opened one of the files and sighed. "This will be a long fight. He may be in prison, but his fingerprints are everywhere. If we don't clean this mess, Williams Group will collapse." George walked in, his face lined with worry. "Amanda, we need to talk about court. Jonathan's lawyer has already filed for bail." Amanda's eyes sharpened. "Bail? After everything he did?" George nodded. "They argue there's no solid evidence tying him to attempted murder. They claim it was all misunderstanding." Amanda's heart pounded. She stood. "No, I will not let him walk free. If it means standing in court myself, I'll do it. The truth must be heard." At that same moment, Sandra sat in her luxury apartment on Victoria Island. She was draped in silk, a glass of red wine in her hand, her phone pressed to her ear. "Yes, barrister," she said coolly. "Do everything possible to free Jonathan. Money is not the problem. He is the father of my unborn child." Her words were icy, deliberate. She had rehearsed them for weeks. In truth, she wasn't pregnant. She had only used that lie to tighten her grip on Jonathan's wealth. When the call ended, she leaned back and smirked. "Jonathan, you fool. You thought you were using me. But soon I will control everything. Amanda is strong, but I am smarter." She took another sip of wine, her mind already weaving plots. "If Jonathan rots in prison, I still win. If he comes out, I'll bend him to my will. Either way, Amanda loses." 2 weeks later, the Lagos High Court buzzed with journalists, lawyers, and curious citizens. The case of State versus Jonathan Uche had become the talk of the nation. Amanda arrived in a black Mercedes, flanked by security. She wore a navy blue gown, her hair tied neatly, her face calm but unreadable. Cameras flashed as reporters shouted questions. "Mrs. Williams, is it true your husband tried to kill you? Do you feel safe now that he's in custody?" Amanda said nothing. She walked straight into the courtroom, head held high. Inside, Jonathan sat in the dock, dressed in prison uniform. He looked thinner, his moustache unkempt, but his eyes still carried fire. When Amanda entered, he smirked. "You're glowing, Amanda," he sneered. "Don't worry. This court is just a stage. I'll be free soon. And when I return, you'll beg for mercy." Amanda's lips pressed into a thin line, but she didn't reply. The judge, an elderly man with sharp eyes, banged his gavel. "Order in court. Let us proceed." The prosecution laid out evidence, bank records, eyewitness accounts, and recordings from Amanda's staged death. Dr. Nelson testified about Jonathan's threats. Cynthia described how Jonathan withdrew money secretly at midnight, but the defense struck back fiercely. Jonathan's lawyer painted Amanda as a manipulative wife, staging her own death to ruin her husband. He claimed the bank withdrawals were business investments, not theft. At one point, Jonathan himself took the stand. His voice dripped with false humility. I loved Amanda. I still love her. She is my wife. I never planned to harm her. This is all a misunderstanding fueled by jealousy and mistrust. Gasps filled the room. Amanda's fists clenched. She wanted to shout, but George placed a calming hand on her arm. Then, the judge turned to Amanda. Mrs. Williams, will you testify? The room went silent. Amanda rose and walked to the witness stand. She looked straight at Jonathan, her voice steady. You speak of love, Jonathan, she said. But true love does not hire assassins. True love does not empty bank accounts. True love does not call a mistress on the day of his wife's funeral to celebrate. You betrayed not only me, but every soul that trusted you. This is not love, this is greed. And greed has no place in my father's company. The courtroom erupted. Journalists scribbled furiously. Cameras clicked. Jonathan's face turned crimson. He slammed his fist on the dock. Lies, all lies. The judge banged his gavel. Order! Amanda turned to the judge. My lord, I am not asking for revenge. I am asking for justice. Let the truth speak. As the day's hearing ended, the judge adjourned the case for final arguments. Amanda walked out into the flashing lights of the press. She answered only one question. What do you want from this trial, Mrs. Williams? Her answer was calm, simple, and powerful. Justice, nothing less. Meanwhile, inside the prison van, transporting him back, Jonathan leaned close to a fellow inmate and whispered, I need a phone. Money will flow if you help me. Amanda thinks this trial will end me, but I'll strike before the final judgment. The inmate grinned. For the right price, anything is possible. Far away, Sandra watched the news broadcast with a sly smile. She touched her flat stomach and whispered, both of them think they're smart, but the game is mine to win. Amanda didn't know it yet, but her greatest battle was only beginning. The morning sun cast a pale glow over Lagos High Court. Inside, tension hung thick in the air. The trial had reached its climax, and the whole city buzzed with anticipation. Vendors outside the courthouse sold newspapers with screaming headlines. Banker turned betrayer. Jonathan Uche faces justice. Amanda stood at the mirror in her chambers before the hearing began, adjusting the collar of her white blouse. Her reflection stared back at her calm, determined, unbroken. She whispered under her breath, Father, give me strength. This is bigger than me now. Juliet entered, carrying a folder. Madam, these are the new documents from our auditors. They confirm Jonathan laundered over 5 billion naira through shell companies. Amanda took the file and skimmed through. Her heart tightened, but her face remained firm. This is the nail in his coffin. Olivia walked in, her voice low. Be careful, Amanda. Jonathan is cornered, and desperate men are dangerous. I have a feeling he won't go down without trying something reckless. Amanda nodded. Let him try. The truth is my shield. That same morning, Jonathan sat hunched in the damp cell, his eyes bloodshot. The night had been long, his mind restless with schemes. Bullet, the cell leader, approached him with a smirk. You promised money, banker. Where is it? Jonathan lifted his chin. You'll get it, but I need a phone first. There are people I must contact before this trial ends. Bullet narrowed his eyes, then signaled another inmate. Minutes later, a battered old phone was slipped into Jonathan's hands. With trembling fingers, he dialed Sandra's number. She picked up almost instantly. Jonathan, her voice purred. I was beginning to wonder if you'd forgotten me. His voice was sharp. Sandra, enough games. I need you to do something for me. Amanda must not win this case. I want her silenced before the verdict. Sandra's lips curved into a smile. She swirled her wineglass lazily. Oh, Jonathan, you're still giving orders from prison. That's bold. But tell me, what do I get if I help you? Jonathan clenched his jaw. You'll get everything once I'm free. The company, the money, our future. Sandra leaned back on her sofa. Our future? Or your future? Don't forget, Jonathan, I hold secrets that can bury you deeper than Amanda ever could. His breath caught. Sandra, what are you saying? She laughed softly. I'm saying, maybe Amanda isn't my enemy. Maybe she's the one I should be talking to. Before Jonathan could respond, the line went dead. He stared at the phone, fury consuming him. "Sandra, you snake." By noon, the courtroom was packed. Lawyers shuffled papers, journalists whispered, and cameras clicked as the judge entered. Jonathan was led in by prison guards, his hands cuffed, but his expression carefully composed. Amanda sat at the plaintiff's table, flanked by George, Juliet, and Olivia. She didn't look at Jonathan, though she could feel his gaze burning into her. The prosecution began. "My lord, today we present final arguments. The evidence is overwhelming. Financial theft, attempted murder, and betrayal of trust. The accused cannot escape justice. They displayed documents, played recorded calls, and even brought witnesses who testified about Jonathan's secret meetings with hired killers." When it was the defense's turn, Jonathan's lawyer stood, his tone dramatic. "My lord, this case is nothing but a family quarrel turned public spectacle. Mrs. Williams staged her death to humiliate her husband. There is no concrete proof that he plotted her murder. He is a man wrongly accused." The courtroom erupted in murmurs. Amanda's fists tightened. Finally, the judge turned to Jonathan. "You may speak before we close." Jonathan rose slowly. He looked around, his voice smooth. "I admit mistakes. Yes, I mishandled funds. But to say I planned to kill Amanda? No, she was my wife. I loved her. This case is her revenge, nothing more." He turned his gaze on Amanda, eyes narrowing. "But let me warn you, Amanda. If you think this court will save you, you are mistaken. You cannot destroy me." Gasps filled the room. The judge slammed his gavel. "Silence. Mr. Uche, control yourself." Amanda finally rose, her voice calm but cutting. "Jonathan, love does not hire assassins. Love does not celebrate at the grave of its partner. You betrayed everything my family stood for, and today you will answer for it." Far from the courtroom, Sandra sat at a cafe, watching the trial live on television. The more she watched, the clearer her plan became. She pulled out her phone and dialed a new number. "Hello? Is this Mrs. Williams's office?" she asked sweetly. "I have information that can help your case, but I want something in return." Her eyes glittered. She was about to switch sides, but not for loyalty, only for survival. After hours of arguments, the judge leaned forward. His voice was grave. "This court has heard both sides. The evidence is heavy, the emotions deep, but justice must be fair. I will deliver my judgment in 7 days." The gavel struck. Court adjourned. Reporters surged forward. Guards rushed Jonathan out. Amanda remained seated for a moment, her breath steadying. 7 days. 7 days until everything was decided. But as she walked out, Olivia whispered, "Be careful, Amanda. 7 days is enough for Jonathan to try something dangerous." Amanda nodded, her eyes darkening. "Then we will be ready." That night, Sandra arrived unannounced at Amanda's mansion. She wore a black gown, her face covered with a scarf. The guards hesitated, but Amanda ordered them to let her in. When they were alone, Sandra pulled off her scarf and smiled faintly. "Amanda, we need to talk." Amanda's eyes hardened. "You dare come here?" After standing beside Jonathan in betrayal, Sandra raised her hands. "I am not here as your enemy. Jonathan is planning something from prison. He wants you dead before the verdict. He called me himself." I refused. Amanda studied her closely. "Why are you telling me this? What do you gain?" Sandra's smile was thin. "Survival. Jonathan is finished. Aligning with him means sinking with him. But you, Amanda, you are the future. I want to be on the winning side." Amanda shook her head in disbelief. "You betrayed me once. Why should I trust you now?" Sandra leaned forward. "Because I know his next move. He bribed prison guards. Someone will come for you within the week. If you don't believe me, wait and see." The silence stretched between them. Finally, Amanda said, "If this is true, Sandra, then you've signed your own confession. But remember, if you're lying, I will expose you myself." Sandra's smile didn't falter. "Then let us see who survives these 7 days." Back in his cell, Jonathan stared at the ceiling, rage burning in his veins. Bullet approached, whispering, "Everything is ready. The message has been sent. She won't live to hear the verdict." Jonathan closed his eyes, a cold smile curling his lips. "Good. Amanda thought she buried me. Now it's time to bury her for real." But across Lagos, Amanda sat at her desk, replaying Sandra's warning in her mind. She lifted her phone and called Inspector Ad. "Inspector," she said, her voice steady but urgent. "Double my security. The war isn't over yet." The city outside buzzed with life, unaware of the storm brewing in its heart. 7 days. Only 7 days until truth or death would decide the final chapter. The gavel came down like thunder. "Jonathan Uche, this court finds you guilty of financial fraud, attempted murder, and criminal conspiracy. You are hereby sentenced to 7 years imprisonment with hard labor." Gasps erupted in the courtroom. Amanda exhaled, a shiver running through her body. She didn't cheer, didn't smile, only closed her eyes and whispered, "Justice is done." Jonathan stood motionless in the dock, his face pale. For the first time, the mask of arrogance cracked. The reality of years behind bars settled on him like chains too heavy to carry. As the warders dragged him away, he turned back one last time. His eyes locked on Amanda's. "I'll write to you," he whispered. Amanda didn't reply. She turned her back. Months later, the news broke across Lagos. Sandra Uche wins mansion case, judge rules in her favor. Sandra had stunned everyone by dragging Williams Group and Amanda into court, claiming that Jonathan had promised her the Banana Island mansion as a gift before his arrest. With cunning lawyers and forged documents, she fought bitterly. On the day of judgment, the judge declared, "Though the accused, Mr. Jonathan, is in prison, evidence suggests that the property transfer was legally executed. The court hereby rules that Miss Sandra retains ownership of the Banana Island mansion." Sandra stepped out of court with a triumphant smile, reporters flashing cameras. She spoke into microphones. "This is justice. People thought I would fall. But I stand. This mansion is mine by right." Amanda watched the broadcast in her office, fury surging through her veins. George slammed his fist on the desk. "That snake has the mansion now. What next?" Amanda sighed deeply. "Let her keep it. A house cannot define me. I have bigger battles and bigger dreams." And so, she let it go. Sandra lived in the mansion, flaunting her victory, but little did she know that her story was heading for a fall of its own. 2 years after Jonathan's imprisonment, Amanda's life took a surprising turn. She had focused on rebuilding Williams Group, restoring its image, and regaining the trust of shareholders. The company flourished again under her leadership. One evening, at a business conference in Abuja, she met Sam Okoro, a humble but brilliant architect, contracted to design a new Williams Group headquarters. Sam was nothing like Jonathan. He was gentle, respectful, and deeply spiritual. Their friendship blossomed over shared late-night project discussions, laughter over coffee, and long drives where they spoke about life beyond business. Soon, friendship turned into love. One Sunday morning, Sam knelt before Amanda in her garden, holding a small velvet box. "Amanda," he said, his eyes glistening, "I know your heart has been through storms. But will you let me be the calm after the storm? Will you marry me?" Amanda's eyes brimmed with tears. She saw not greed, not manipulation, but genuine love in his eyes. She whispered, "Yes, Sam. 1,000 times, yes." Their wedding was held in a grand hall in Lagos, decorated with white roses and gold drapes. It wasn't just a wedding. It was a celebration of survival, healing, and hope. Months later, Amanda gave birth to twin boys. The cries of her children filled her home with a joy she had never known before. She named them David and Daniel, symbols of strength and God's justice. For the first time in years, Amanda felt free. While Amanda built a new life, Jonathan's days in prison were long, harsh, and humbling. The arrogant banker became a broken man. Bullet, the cell leader, no longer respected him. Guards mocked him. Fellow inmates reminded him daily of the wealth he once flaunted. In the darkness of those nights, Jonathan began to write. At first, the letters were filled with anger and blame. "Amanda, you ruined me. You turned the world against me. One day, you will regret this." But as months passed, bitterness melted into regret. He wrote again, "Amanda, I think of you every day. The company, the house, the life we had, I lost everything. But the greatest loss was you. I see it now. My greed blinded me. I am sorry." Years passed, and the letters grew softer, more desperate. "Amanda, I pray you are happy. I pray your life is full, even without me. I was a fool. Forgive me." At first, Amanda ignored them. She tore some apart, threw others into the fire. But as the years went by, Curiosity made her read them, and slowly she began to see the change in his words, from arrogance to humility, from denial to acceptance. 7 years later, Amanda stood at the gates of Ikoyi prison. Her twins were now 6 years old, and Sam stood beside her, supportive. "Are you sure about this?" Sam asked gently. Amanda nodded. "Yes, I need closure. For me, for the boys, for the past." Inside the visiting room, Jonathan sat across the table, older, thinner, his moustache grey, his eyes sunken. The moment he saw her, tears welled up. "Amanda." His voice cracked. "You came." Amanda studied him quietly. Gone was the proud banker, the schemer. In his place sat a broken man. "I read your letters," she said softly. He lowered his head. "I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I needed to say it anyway. I am sorry. For everything. For Sandra. For the money. For the lies. I destroyed us." Amanda's throat tightened. For years she had carried anger like a wound. But looking at him now, she felt something unexpected: pity. "I forgive you, Jonathan," she whispered. "Not for you, but for me. I refuse to carry your sins any longer." Jonathan broke down, sobbing uncontrollably. Months later, Jonathan was eventually freed and walked out of prison a free man. No mansion, no billions, no power, only the clothes on his back and a folder of old letters. He expected to walk into nothingness. But outside the prison gates, Amanda stood waiting with Sam and the twins. "Where will you go?" Amanda asked. Jonathan shook his head. "I don't know. I have nothing." Amanda looked at him steadily. "You still have a chance. If you are willing to start small, Williams Group will give you a place, not in the boardroom, but in one of our branches. Prove you can rebuild." Jonathan's lips trembled. You would do that? After everything?" Amanda nodded. "Because forgiveness without opportunity is incomplete. Take it, Jonathan. Start again." Tears rolled down his cheeks. For the first time, he bowed his head, not in shame, but in gratitude. While Jonathan found a path to redemption, Sandra's life unraveled. Her victory with the mansion was short-lived. Her lavish lifestyle, endless parties, and reckless spending drained her accounts. She tried to gamble into wealth, but debts mounted. Enemies she had stepped on began circling like vultures. Within years, she lost everything: the cars, the jewelry, even the Banana Island mansion seized by creditors. One rainy evening, Amanda received news that Sandra had been spotted wandering barefoot in Balogun Market, begging for food. Amanda shook her head sadly. Greed always devours its own. Years later, Jonathan sat at a desk in a modest Williams Group branch office in Surulere. He wore a simple shirt and tie, carefully checking loan applications. He wasn't a boss anymore, just a staff member learning humility, rebuilding brick by brick. In his drawer lay Amanda's last letter to him. "Jonathan, true wealth is not money or power. It is peace, forgiveness, and love. Guard these, and you will never be poor again." He often read it when the weight of regret threatened to drown him. Meanwhile, Amanda thrived. With Sam by her side and her twins growing strong, she led Williams Group into a new golden age. Her story became an inspiration, proof that betrayal could break you but not destroy you, that forgiveness could heal even the deepest wounds. On Sundays, when she and Sam attended prayer service with their children, Amanda often caught sight of Jonathan at the back, sitting quietly, his prayer book open, his head bowed, and in those moments she knew the circle was complete. The woman who had been betrayed found love, the man who had fallen found redemption, and the story of greed, betrayal, and justice ended not in bitterness, but in forgiveness and second chances. What is your view about this story? If you were in Amanda's shoes, would you have forgiven Jonathan despite what he did? Where are you watching from? If you enjoyed this story, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel for more interesting stories.